Week May 912 back in your area. This is to the Street 2.0. Go ahead and hit that like button, that subscribe button. Now, Torey Lanez has got a big break in this case. And I know I did a live on this, but I want to just chop out this part and show you how crucial this is to his case. Because it proves that this man never shot that gun.
Into it once you load up and put them bullets, all right? So, let's get to the handgun itself. Not the magazine, but the handgun. They said there was one male's DNA on it, and the numbers go as follows, just like with the other situation with the 62, 26, 93. 90%, 5%, 3, and then 2. That ain't on a 100 scale. What the fuck is them numbers? I don't know. Anyway, they said that was inconclusive. They said Torey cannot be excluded or included because they couldn't prove that his DNA was on the gun. They said, is it common to see complex evidence in profile mixtures, which means that multiple people handle something? They said all the test shows is that somebody touched it. So we checked the majority of the gun, you know, for those things. They said, okay, done. Cross-examination. They said the magazine had 4 contributors, right? He said yes. Torey was excluded from the magazine. He said, yeah. He said, if I load bullets, you know, into a gun, the DNA, my DNA would be on the shit, right? He said, yeah. They say if the gun was used frequently, your DNA would be on it, huh? He said, yeah. He said, in this case, it was DNA on the casings. He said, we ain't look at that. They say, if the gun is my gun and I hold it, load it, and shoot that bitch 5 times, do you feel like my DNA gonna be on it? He said, yeah, more than likely. So they said, you have 0 evidence for my client's DNA on the magazine. He said, yeah. He said, is my client excluded from the gun? Could you say that my client had that gun? He said, can you say that my client touched that gun? He said, no. No. They told me to go to rehab. I said, no. Kelsey say Torey woke up and said, hey, baby. She said he whispered it. Girl. Redirect. They said, do you, no. They came back in and they was talking to the man. And he said, look, ultimately, I just do the damn report. And so he said, look, is there any evidence that my client touched the magazine or the damn gun? He said, no. Now, this is the get you gotcha. Chop, they said, do y'all have any samples for Kelsey? Do y'all have any DNA samples for Kelsey that were tested up against this weapon? No. He said, did y'all request DNA from Kelsey to test it on this weapon? They said no. So let me get this correct. Y'all don't know what the fuck done happened out there, but y'all know a gun was fired. But y'all put all y'all eggs in Torey basket and wanted to accuse him immediately. So much so that the LAPD, with more sloppy ass work, decided, let's go ahead and test Torey for gunshot residue and DNA. And we're going to test Kelsey for gunshot residue. Did y'all think that maybe she wouldn't have it? And then fucked around and found out it was on her hands? And nobody ever tested nor requested that she get, you know, DNA checked or swabbed so that they can compare it against the gun. Does that make sense to you? Is that logical to you? Does that sound like, you know, any type of police department that's trying to seek the truth? Because what they're supposed to be doing is investigating. This all happened today, nigga. So I'm just trying to understand how this was ever balanced. I'm trying to understand why nobody's having a conversation about how the LAPD has cut corners consistently. And every time y'all cut a corner, it was to make Megan's case stronger. But let me continue on. I can give you 5 more minutes and that's it. And then we'll have to go over that other shit. We come back at 3:40. Okay, we had a little break. They pull up somebody for the defense because of his schedule. They took him out of order because the prosecution has not rested, even though they need to take a long slumber. Oh, Instagram giving me a timer today. Oh, thank you, bitch. So anyway, let me get to the get you gotcha. I got 1 minute and 49 seconds. All right. This man was a forensic scientist that talked absolutely too fucking much. He put me to sleep a couple of times, but I was listening though. But you can tell that he loves what he does. And this man is really a pioneer in terms of DNA. I was actually taken aback and really on some like brain shit. Like, nigga, you a cold piece. Like, this nigga is one of the people that helped to create the way that we analyze DNA today when it comes to that being tested and used in cases. So that is monumental. Like, that nigga didn't get a Pulitzer Prize or some shit. I don't know, that shit crazy. But anyway, we got 1 minute and 9 seconds. They said, based on the DNA analysis, that what can you tell us about it? You know, based on what they did. They said that they did DNA testing on the gun and on the gun and the magazine. I apologize. They said, can you explain what the LAPD concluded from the handgun? He said that they said that they had DNA from 4 people and that one was a male. 45 seconds. They said, so at least one male was there. He said, yeah. And he said, but there was female DNA on the motherfucking gun. Listen. Let me bend this page so I know where I'm at. I'm gonna come back and tell y'all some more shit and get into it. But to me, that's some of the most important shit right there. That a female's DNA was absolutely on that fucking weapon. And I'm gonna come back in like a few minutes and we'll wrap this shit up. But bitch, yeah, get into it.
Let me catch you up on what happened with the DNA experts. So both of the DNA experts said pretty much the exact same thing with very minute differences. Here's the basics, and then I'll tell you what I think. So they both said that the magazine was tested and there were 4 DNA profiles on the magazine, and you can tell that none of those are Torey. So most likely Torey never touched this magazine. On the gun, they both said the same thing, that there's 4 profiles on the gun, but it's inconclusive. You can't tell if the DNA is Torey's or somebody else's. Now, both experts agreed that you would expect to see Torey's DNA on the gun if he had shot it 5 times. The defense experts seem to go further and say, look, if he shot that gun 5 times and then they tested it, you would conclusively see that he's on it. You don't see that here, suggesting strong DNA evidence in Torey's favor. Now, then the prosecution went to try to discredit the defense expert. He's like, aren't you getting paid by the defense? Don't you always work for defendants? He's like, yeah, the LAPD has their crime prosecutor, and then defendants hire private companies like mine to do the forensics. It's like, oh, okay, well, how much are you getting paid? The guy's like, $250 an hour. How much has he paid you total? The guy's like, $6,000. It's like, oh, well, it was really kind of just like, look, there's experts, man. This guy's been doing it forever. He's like, oh, are you accredited? And he's like, no, I didn't apply for accreditation. I'm certified by the same people who do accreditation. It's like, well, what does that mean? He's like, well, twice a year, our lab people all get tested. They send them blind samples. They have to do the analysis, send it back, and then we get the results. He's like, oh, okay, well, what are the results? He's like, well, we never got anything wrong. And the guy's like, how do we know that? He's like, I'm telling you. He's like, how do we know you're not lying? He's like, well, you can check. I'll show you the records. And then he just kept going on and on. Look, at the end of the day, the DNA evidence came out strongly, I think, in favor of Torey. We'll see where the rest of the trial takes us. There was one other part, the big part, which is that they never gave the crime lab Kelsey's DNA. And so on defense, the defense brought out this point that, hey, if you ever get a case file and there's 2 people with GSR, wouldn't you expect to get 2 people's DNA? And the guy's like, yeah, that would make sense. If there's 2 people who've tested positive for the GSR and we're testing one's DNA, we ought to test both DNA. So
I totally agree. Why don't y'all leave down in the comments, let me know what y'all think. This week made 912, I'm out your area.